We're live. Hey Brian, how are you?
Good, Ashmedh. How we doing?
Good to have you on board here. So today I'd love to talk about shift. I know you've been an elite trainer. You've trained some of the most elite athletes in the planet, from the average Joe to the Hyrox athletes. And you yourself are an athlete and have done really well in major events. You've had a background in CrossFit, and it goes deeper than that, obviously. But I'd love to get your progression on shift. You've used it. What are your thoughts on what you think about technology? What is it about it that makes you want to use it again and again?
Yeah, so right out of the gates with Shift, it's the first product that I've seen that is giving you data outside of your generic pacing and route running. I mean, essentially, if you look at running technology that's been out there, it's really revolved around. You could take a Garmin. A Garmin's great, and these are all great applications to use. But we're basing a lot of our progressions off of just time, right? And there's nothing out there that's actually giving you insights to how your cadence is with running, or things that are super unique like ground contact time. If you talk to anybody right now, there's no one having that conversation, especially in like a running perspective. And myself, even using the product, the fact that I could get data and it was telling me my just as a stat, I was my ground contact time was 200 milliseconds, and then by the end of my session this morning, it was 300 milliseconds. And it's just showing you there's a slow progression of fatigue that's coming into play. And I'm someone who will geek out on this data. And not only that, I mean, there's so many markers that you can start to assess, from cadence and speed, the strides per minute, all of these types of like data points. There isn't something out there that's organizing this and allowing us to actually excel and dive in and get our own data. I really look at this as essentially like the Oura ring of running.
That's a unique way to put it. The Oura ring of running. I like that. That is a perfect marketing branding slogan. Thank you, Brian. You're a man of many talents.
That came in the shower this morning, so we'll use it.
Take more showers, Brian. Sounds awesome. So, Brian, obviously you're using the stats to help you and guide you to understand your fatigue levels, your running cadences, and how to improve your running. Part of the Shift platform is also providing live coaching, to give you some hints and cues along the way. How have you find that to be helpful to you in your running or in your training, for that matter, for other people as well?
There's I had this moment, just tie back into my session this morning, is one, the fact that you have a coach in your ear, it's almost a game for you while you're in a run. Usually we're tuned out or maybe not even present because we're jamming out to music. You can definitely sync up to music with, BPMs and stuff. But I love this aspect of having someone that's like watching over your shoulder. So even though you know, uh, it's a digital being person in your ear, it makes you feel as if you have someone watching you. So giving you a prompt to say, hey, in 30 seconds, you need to ramp up to this pace for the next 4 minutes, and then we're going to take another break. And they're kind of assisting you and saying, hey, you can hold on for another 2 minutes. It's that other voice in your head that's going to be fighting your own internal demons. So I enjoy having that without, essentially having access to my own coach for running.
Gotcha. That sounds awesome. How have you used the technology to train other athletes? And maybe you can step back a little bit and give us an understanding of what you do as a trainer, what you do in the world of fitness. I'd love to have kind of a quick snapshot of your background.
Yeah, so my company, Training Day, we started out as just, myself as a coach. And, we've expanded this from taking a lot of the principles that I've taken for coaching for now. I mean, we're going on 15 years of experience. And essentially, Training Day is taking the truest principles possible and putting them into progressions, training programs, knowledge, like you name it, anything that you're seeking as far as a person and looking for personal development, physical development. That's essentially what I have come to in a conclusion as being a coach for so long, is these principles and truths are timeless, right? And part of that, with technology advancing, and technology is going to go through the roof in the next 10 years. So, we're having a conversation about shift, but I can't even imagine what we're going to be having as far as data points and accessibility in the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years. But a big point that I'm getting to here is that data does not lie. And you can use data for everything. And once you start to adopt data as a marker for truth, everything else becomes very clear. So nothing is subjective anymore. It's objective, right? And as a coach and almost as an athlete on both sides, you can get into your own biases. And that's where I love to use data as the truth. So if I have an opinion or a perspective, I could be proven by the data, or I could be wrong by the data. So allowing us to have this as this middle ground and all this technology to be part of our own human technology as interacting with coach and athletes, all we're getting to is more truth, which allows us to, gain autonomy as an individual and as a coach, to where we're allowing these tool sets to amplify, our conversations and communications and services to others.
So shifting to the truth through data. I kind of like that ring as well. So with your current individual you're training as part of the training day platform, some of them are training for half marathons, 5Ks, 10Ks, high rocks, CrossFit. I mean, you name it. You have a stable of individuals who are of a multi-purpose approach to what they're doing and perhaps to have different intentions. For all those different buckets of people or different names that people have, how are you currently using Shift, and how do you foresee using Shift to help these individuals achieve those goals?
Yeah, so Shift is this, I want to say, like, you can use it as a coaching assistant that is on the ground with a client, right? So as an example, with training day, nothing's in person, everything is digital, right? So I can tell you what to do on a day-to-day basis. Simple run progressions. Ashmedh, you're about to go crush your ultra marathon. We'll put it right. This is what you're going to go after, and I can get some data based on 5K time trials, previous race time trials, and we can start to sit here and go, okay, well, here's where pacing seems to be in an aerobic sense for you, and we want to progress this to get you faster, right? But when you're just going off these numbers, which is still data, so it's still very powerful, but when you have something on the ground and they're live with a person, and now you can start to see what your mechanics are doing, that's where you can essentially take this program and completely individualize it. Not saying that it wasn't before, but the more I know about you, and let's say you're this runner, the more I can understand where your cadence lies, your posture, speed in certain time zones, your heart rate, your breath rate. When you have all these markers and you have this thing that's live with you, then we can sit here and go, here's the exact things that you need as an individual, and not have it so much as more of a template and a rough skeleton. You can go, this is exactly what Ashmedh needs. And again, what does it do? It leads us back to that truth.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's fine tuning it to the person's unique profile, physical profile, physical abilities, which is fascinating. So in terms of the spectrum of people out there that can use it, would this device be something you'd recommend for the Kinaxa 5K? Would it be somebody for the ultra marathons, the half marathons, for the Ironmans, for the triathlons? Like, what cadre of people would you recommend it for? Is it for everybody or just for a select few people?
Yeah, so for what Shift's capacity is, there's two sides to it for two different types of people. So let's bucket them in terms. We have like a generalist, right? And we'll call this generalist as someone who may just be getting into the running scene or starting to say, hey, like, I want to start running every day, right? The basic features of Shift is going to give that generalist this information that they're not going to get anywhere else, because what do we usually do? We usually go put on a watch, put on our headphones, and we go try to run. And a high percentage of people will do that, but eventually what happens is we run into these roadblocks of injuries. Now, injuries, or they just hit these, they don't know how to progress from there, right? So the big thing is, like, I like that ground contact time feature inside of the Shift app, because if you look at a lot of the injuries that occur for people that are just throwing themselves into running immediately, is they actually mechanically are very inefficient. So what happens is you're basically using your quads and your glutes against each other. And I like to just use this analogy, like just pounding like a hammer. And that's what you're doing to your knees, and you're sending a lot of negative energy. And the only way you can correct that is to become less quad dominant, and this goes for everyone, and improve the cadence and the rhythm that you move with your feet. And that starts from ground contact time, speed, etc. So that's for a beginner. And all these generalists can kind of get into, we'll still bucket them as maybe their first 5K, they're hanging out with 5Ks, they're trying a high rocks race, right? They're like a daily runner that just wants to see progress and see results. Then you have the other side here where the basic features are still great, but you have like a pro version where you can strap on these pods, and these pods now 10x all these data points to where we can look at foot positions. I mean, posture. The things can get endless to where you can really geek out on this stuff, but that's for a athlete that is that's already experienced, and we'll use, maybe there's a 5K or a marathon, like a big trend right now from a male athlete perspective in a marathon in the competitive scene for like these hybrid athletes is going a sub 3 hour marathon, right? You're only going to get that by improving your mechanics, and you're going to only be able to do that as well as through actually progression and training and tempo runs and pace differences and a lot of volume, right? And the pods are going to cover all of that for you.
Yeah, it's a big part of shift. You're right. It's about creating a zone to allow people to experience running and reduce the onset of potential injury. So you're right. That's a huge part of it. And I think once you get to a point of being an elite runner, then it's a question of how do you tweak these variables to just simply optimize your form to the point where you're more of a gazelle, and it's kind of the 1% of your time you're focused on. So I can definitely see that. So it seems like it's a technology for the general population to the elite athletes. So it's great to hear that. Running plays a big part, it seems, in almost every race that's out there, whether it's a high rocks race or whether it's a CrossFit event. The cardiovascular conditioning of an athlete is very important. How big a deal is running from your perspective, first of all, in just general health? And secondly, how big a part does it play in many of the events that you coach for?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at running, it's the most potent and primal modality for human beings, right? We started with running. We didn't have bikes, and well, now it's e-bikes at this point. We're not even pedaling today, but we are meant to run. So that alone, and this is something that I always preach to individuals, is if they're looking to become more enduring, more aerobic, get faster in any modality, and we'll say a sidestep here is to, maybe they're a swimmer. This isn't applicable to that, right? You're only using your arm. You use your legs too. But if it's someone that's looking into that space, high rocks, running marathons, functional fitness, etc., is the most primal way and the most potent way for you to become more physically fit and aerobically fit on a global level as a person is running. And there's a key attribute in this is there are treadmills and there are self-propelling treadmills, but moving your body through, nothing beats moving your body through gravity, right? That's our feedback loop. And when we are, when we're performing these training sessions, there's nothing else that's giving you this tactile feedback from gravity, and we're moving weight through gravity, right? So it's not stationary. And so this is that vital component that people can really dig into and embrace and add into their repertoire as an athlete looking to progress, and just cardiovascularly or endurance, doesn't matter, is when you really start to geek out on this stuff, you can see that this is like the ultimate true test of getting more conditioning, aerobic, etc.
I love it. Carrying weight through gravity. That's a really good way to put it. I love it. Um, awesome, Brian. Well, thank you for your time on this. I know you're going to be very heavily involved in Shift as we continue to bring it to the broader public. So I'm sure we'll have many more of these conversations. But thank you for your first of hopefully many appearances on the topic of Shift.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.